Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Trustees meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, January 10. If you're watching live on Monday, January 10, we're happy to receive your calls for comments or questions at 769-1677. As always, you can watch on Verizon Fios, on Cablevision Optimum, or on the web at pctv76.org, where you can also see past meetings with on-demand video. So our next regular meeting is Monday, January 24th at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7. We do not have a meeting next week, which is Monday the 17th, am I right?
Yes.
Because that is Martin Luther King Day, which gives me an opportunity to report that the annual Interfaith Martin Luther King service this year will be held next Monday the 17th at the Methodist Church at 7 p.m., led by a Buddhist group that meets at the Methodist Church. So the Pleasantville Interfaith Council is organizing their annual Martin Luther King service, 7 p.m. next Monday at the Methodist Church.
That's Martin Luther King Monday is a national holiday? Is that
Yes.
Is a national holiday, 17th, right. Okay, so now I've got a small or not so small list of announcements to make, and then we have a public hearing to go into. The first is some of you who are members of various listservs in the village or who are subscribers to the village email system, which I encourage you to be a part of at pleasantville-ny.gov. Almost every screen you can click on the bottom and subscribe to news. We encourage you to do it. We sent out a report that there will be a meeting next week, in 2 weeks, on January 24th at 8 p.m. regarding a proposal that came to us from the Conservation Advisory Council to enact a ban on leaf blowers. Quite a number of communities in Westchester have limited the use of leaf blowers at certain times. We have before us quite an array of different laws on that subject. CAC has come forward and asked us to consider a similar thing for a variety of reasons, which they will describe in greater detail, but they have to do with noise and pollution and stirring up allergens and the like. So what they proposed to us was a leaf blower ban from April 30 to October 15. We proposed to have a community meeting about that on Monday the 24th before we even propose a local law. If we were to propose a local law, that would trigger the need for a public hearing thereafter, but before we get to the point of that, we wanted to get everybody's opinion. And so we encourage any of you who are interested in that subject to appear on Monday the 24th at 8, or if you prefer not to come or unable to, you could send in comments, which we will be happy to read into the record. We continue to discuss the question of sledding at the country club, and more snow is anticipated this week. It seems that every time we turn around, there's discussion of more snow. Our parks guys went up to the country club and erected some new fences. The key issue is that we need all sledders to stay off the greens and to stay off the sand traps, because those are fragile areas of the country club and areas that can get harmed. So we put up better fences that are more durable around those areas, and people are welcome to sled on the big hills that they always sledded on, the first fairway and the second fairway, but they need to stay off the greens and stay off the sand traps, not only in that area but everywhere else. So recognize that sledding is part of the country club site plan approval, but it is also a public activity on private property, and everybody needs to be extremely respectful of the people that live there and of the need to protect the course. I add to that people have often parked at the country club clubhouse to go sledding, and the country club is okay with that, except in the circumstance that A, they need to maintain the lot, plow it, salt it, whatever, and need it clear to do that, or B, when Unique Affairs Caterers, which runs the clubhouse restaurant, needs those spaces for an event. So I would encourage you to think about parking elsewhere just as a matter of course, and walk your way into the country club whenever you can. But anybody who drives up the country club driveway needs to be 100% respectful of the private property there, and if for any reason the country club feels the need to limit parking there, please be respectful of it and follow their request. I already mentioned the Martin Luther King service at the Methodist Church, 7 p.m. next Monday. I wanted to mention that on Friday night, the Pleasantville Volunteer Ambulance Corps had their annual dinner to install their new officers, and I was there, as was Mindy, who is the board liaison to the Pleasantville Ambulance Corps. Quite a great night when the Ambulance Corps gets a chance to not only install its new officers and thank the outgoing officers, but to report on their activities of the year, which included in the year 2010 over 1,000 calls for service. So what everybody needs to realize is that there are quite a number of our friends and neighbors who are ready to get up and leave their homes at a moment's notice and assist people, and they're doing it on average 2 and 3 times a day throughout the entire year. So it's quite an amazing service that PVAC provides. Congratulations to Gail Wind, who is the outgoing captain, and congratulations to Kelly Wind, who is the incoming captain.
Related?
They are related, and
mother-daughter.
we are fortunate. The Wind family has been the rock upon which PVAC has been built in recent years. In fact, in recent decades, Gail, I think the whole family's been involved for over 20 years now. PVAC provided the Village of Pleasantville a plaque in appreciation of our years of outstanding support. That has to do in part with the fact that PVAC lived for well over 50 years in a village-owned building adjacent to the football field, and in the last few months has completed their move to a new and bigger space over at the Thornwood Water District field. So PVAC is now actually just outside the village. It's in the town of Thornwood, very close by to us, but they're now in a position where they can accommodate their bigger rigs and all of them in an indoor garage. So congratulations to the Pleasantville Volunteer Ambulance Corps, and I encourage anybody who wants to know more or who might think about volunteering to take a look on the web at PleasantvilleVac, that's PleasantvilleVAC.org. And it's a good opportunity to remind everybody that also at that event were quite a number of representatives of the Pleasantville Volunteer Fire Department who attend this event, because those two groups work hand in hand and on many occasions. And they also have a website, which is pleasantvillefire.org, where you can find out more about them and consider the possibility of volunteering there. Former Mayor and now County Legislator John Nona is going to be on PCTV on the 19th at 8 p.m. Doing a session about the budget. Mindy,
Yes.
you can report this.
He was going to do this prior to the vetoes coming down, but we had to cancel it. I forget why we had to cancel it. Is there a reason, Shane? But no, this is a great opportunity for anybody that has any questions regarding the Westchester County budget that was just passed on December 23rd to call in or write in, or call in would probably be best. It would be a live call in starting at 8 o'clock, and the legislator would be happy to answer any questions.
All right. 2 other things to announce. One is that we've received renewal applications for liquor licenses at MacArthur's Grill on Washington Avenue and at Michael's Tavern on Bedford Road. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that we have been, the Finance Department and Patty Dwyer have been at work on the village budget in a preliminary way that will be presented in draft form in March, discussed in greater detail in April, and needs to be adopted in May. And we confront the same kind of challenges that you've read about in many other communities, and we will have more to say about that soon, including a discussion of a number of substantial changes that we may propose, or at least propose to examine in greater detail. So stay tuned on that subject. We will have more to say on that soon. Anybody else have something to add? Again, questions or comments, feel free to call in at 769-1677. With that, we have a public hearing. Is there a motion to open a public hearing on local law amending Chapter 173 Vehicles and Traffic, Section 173-52, Schedule 4, One-Way Street, Parkway Terrace?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Patty, you want to describe the proposal as it stands?
Certainly, be happy to. We have had a number of discussions with residents of Parkway Terrace over the past year with respect to directional traffic on the street, but over the past several years with respect to other aspects of public safety on that roadway, in particular pedestrian traffic, and also some of the complications that arise when the Sawmill River Parkway is closed, and, you know, some confusion with people coming off the parkway and generally using that street as a through street. What's proposed this evening is to make the direction of traffic one-way, basically heading in a northwesterly direction from Bedford Road to Manville Road, and correcting some of the alignment issues that exist at Manville Road and Parkway Terrace with respect to cars turning onto the Sawmill River Parkway and its slip ramp. So what I think is necessary to do tonight, if you can take comments from the interested public, particularly the residents, and put those on the record. We've reached out to the Department of Transportation on several occasions in the past several weeks, but unfortunately, we're still waiting for some official comment on this scheme. There are at least 3 people who were responsible in the Region 8 area for these types of reviews. They've all retired on December 28th. They all took the retirement incentive plan. We didn't find that out until after the new year. So I do have a contact that will be speaking to me. His name's David Parker. He's locally affiliated with the Department.
I know David Parker.
Okay, with the Department of Transportation, and he will be responsible for reviewing this. So I expect to get his comments.
He's
on
very
it.
good.
He is, yes. He's helped us on a number of other projects. So.
And in concept, the state in past years has been okay with the notion of changing that slip ramp.
Yes.
Although we had not previously proposed to them the one-way scheme.
No. But again, I don't believe that that would be a concern for the Department of Transportation. I don't think they would have a concern with that. That's a local concern. You usually hear from your police departments, fire departments, and neighbors, you know, whether or not they have any particular issues with the flow of traffic. We have one comment on the record from Larry Fasnacht, who thought it was a very good idea. So at least I have one other comment other than an immediate neighbor.
The picture that you, and diagram that you gave in the packet, though, this is not what we've been talking about. This looks like from the grant money stuff that we had, which we've
Yeah, this was
passed
the...
on. So this is confusing if anybody gets our packet and looks at this. This is not what's proposed.
No,
Right.
No, it is not. But this was proposed. This was essentially the
Right,
master
but
plan.
we turned it down. We didn't get the grant money, so it's no longer what we're talking about doing.
Right. Well, this evening is only to determine whether or not there should be one-way directional flow of traffic. This doesn't involve...
I just don't want people to get their package and be confused that part of what the scheme is what's the picture
Okay.
here, because it's not the case.
Right.
At all. I mean, it shouldn't even be in the packet because it's irrelevant to this discussion.
Yes, it is, unless there's some comments brought up, but you're only looking at what the code proposed in front of you is, and it's pretty well spelled out that it's just an amendment to a certain section to allow one-way
Okay.
traffic.
So are there comments? Would anybody like to comment other than? Come on up. You could just state your name and address so we get you officially.
Hi, I'm Teresa Conway at 16 Parkway Terrace. We've been a resident since 1999. When we moved to Parkway Terrace, our children were just about 5 years old. We were very happy and consider ourselves fortunate to be in a neighborhood, a village like Pleasantville, and a community where there's a lot of families and children and parks and people walking and interacting within the neighborhood. What quickly became apparent was the fact that our street, Parkway Terrace, sets right between the Roselle Park area and the Parkway Fields. It becomes a natural walkway, passway for the children, for pedestrians, for everyone going back and forth between the little businesses of, 7-Eleven and the Dunkin' Donuts and the Carvels, and back and forth to the parks. Again, children walking, bicycling, skateboards, and pedestrians going back and forth to the train station. So it's also, it's a small street. It's two-way at this point. It has parking on both sides. And it became apparent that it's dangerous because there is no set walkway. Although it's along the river, the area is very woodsy and overgrown, and you really can't walk through that area. It's also a dark area as, dusk occurs, but the children and everyone walks in the middle of the street. So right after we had moved, probably in 2000, I started working with the village to try to do something that would make the area safe for everyone that was using the streets, so they could get back and forth to the areas. And I think the newest proposal of the one-way driving from Bedford to Manville is really nice because it allows the safety, it maintains the parking for the neighbors in the area, it allows a walkway to be mapped out along the side of the river, so it puts everyone off of the street, it keeps the parking, it keeps them safe as far as walking, and hopefully closes that little side ramp, because what happens is cars going from Manville from Bedford over to Manville use our street, use Parkway Terrace as an extended on-ramp, and they're quickly turning off of Bedford onto Parkway Terrace and using it as an on-ramp, extended on-ramp of the little on-ramp to go right onto the Parkway. So hopefully closing that side ramp and having the cars go one way all the way to a corner, make a complete stop, then turn on to Manville, and everyone still has access to the Sawmill Parkway in the same spot. It doesn't affect the traffic really. It doesn't affect people getting on. Most of the traffic goes in that direction anyway, but it maintains the parking. And the biggest thing is that it improves the safety, and that was our concern, to put that walkway there. And it seems that it also, if you make it one way, it allows the asphalt road that is there does not have to be extended. It maintains it as is, so it doesn't affect the ecology of the river. It keeps, it doesn't add any more blacktop, keeps the same amount, but allows a free walkway for the pedestrians to go back and forth. So we're hoping that after, the 10 years of kind of working on the project and finding this, hopefully, route for safety, that this proposal is going to happen within the village, and that this spring will hopefully see a lot safer area going back and forth on our street, which is used a lot between the parks, and especially by the young kids, but also by the the commuters going back and forth to the train station. So that's our concerns, and hopefully the one-way works.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much
Thank you.
appreciated, and you win the award for the 10-year Patience Award with a good spirit, which we have come
So true.
to depend on from you. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for that. So anybody else have any comments on the subject or want to call in at 769-1677? The proposal is to make Parkway Terrace one way from Bedford Road to Manville.
And just to reiterate, this works really only if we get that slip ramp closed, which we have no reason to believe that we won't, but we need to get that closed to make it work. Otherwise, it creates obviously a gaping gap in the whole project, so.
Okay, so now we need to adjourn this hearing pending comment from the state or close it?
I would adjourn it pending comment. And,
All right, so can we put the
and
afterburners
reschedule.
on to
Right.
force the state to comment here?
I would ask if you put on, give us a couple of weeks, so the first meeting in February would probably be the best time.
You think the 24th is too aggressive, given the,
Yes, with the snow coming, and it's just, there aren't many people left in DOT Region 8, particularly in the permit
I mean, all we
area.
have to do is get them to say it's okay, right?
It's not that easy.
Well, I'm not complaining to
Why don't
you.
we
I'm-
just put barricades across it and let them call us?
Yeah, I know. What did you do?
If they
probably won't even
notice.
notice.
They didn't
They
notice.
wouldn't notice. They didn't mow the lawn for
it's
all
funny.
summer
Block it
long.
off and force them to
But-
call
So
us.
Patty,
funny.
I mean, our trouble in February is that means we got to push it to the 14th of February.
All right, let's
Valentine's
try. Let's
Day?
try for the end of the month. Let's try.
Wait,
I'm
we're
fine with
working on
that.
Valentine's Day?
I'm sorry, Mindy, I'm deeply sorry to report that the
I
answer
better
is
get a
yes.
Valentine from every single one of you. I'll tell you right now.
Depends how you act between now and then.
Oh, that's so
Uh,
Touche.
I don't know what much hope for Valentine.
I like time.
How about this? Can we put it on to continue and hopefully close the public hearing on the
Yes,
24th?
that's fine.
And then that can be some incentive. that,
I'll have high hopes.
Do we need
High hopes.
a
Same night as
letter
your
of
leaf
some
blower-
kind,
Your
you
leaf
know?
blower meeting, it's going to be interesting.
Well,
Hey.
I mean, really.
No, this is
We
fine.
don't expect any further comment other than
Well, you
getting
can
the
close
state's
it.
comment into the record, so. Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing until January 24th?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye, okay, so that's our scheme. The state hopefully says yes in the next 2 weeks, and we'll let them know that disaster will happen if they don't.
Just,
And on the 24th, hopefully we close that and we're off and running.
there's also an environmental review that we have to do a short secret statement, just so you're prepared for that. I'll
Okay.
get that ready.
That's fine. Thank you all, much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a little down.
There were two things I wanted to mention that I
you.
forgot to mention. And one of them is I've gotten a number of calls about the senior citizen bus, which was in a minor accident quite some time ago, and a number of people have called me about getting it back in service. Did I understand from you, Patty, today that we have finally positive news to report?
We do. We expect to have that bus on the road the end of the week. Let's hope, that's the case. But the parts that they were waiting for were not available until late last week. They had to be manufactured, apparently. I don't know what that
Did they
meant.
manufacture parts?
Yes. So
right,
somebody
so-
fabricated what we
Great
needed,
country, isn't it?
and we'll be rolling again.
So at any rate, for those who are listening,
Probably causes.
for whom this is a matter of interest, it sounds like the senior bus will be back in business end of this
Wheels
week,
on the
certainly,
bus go
certainly beginning of
around.
next week, because a lot of people depend on it, especially in bad weather.
And I
so-
want to thank Northeast Recreation. They did lend us a bus on a temporary basis, so we were doing our best, but we'll be back on the road.
Okay,
Very good.
and then could you also update, as we did in a work session, about the Lane property? Those of you who watch us regularly are aware that the village is in contract to purchase the Lane Plumbing property, which is behind the post office, and our initial use for it is to raise the buildings and create a parking lot there. We're-
Yeah, sure. Well, this week, we hope to get confirmation from the DEC that whatever the scope of contamination that had been discovered is contained and limited to what we found, that they agree that that's the case, and that they come up with some affirmative statement whether or not it has to be cleaned, or it can be closed, or to the extent that we would have to monitor, or the owners would have to monitor that spill, that they give us a report, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, what their intentions are. There's nothing, I think, of concern at this point. The
We're just
spill is minor.
waiting for the Department of
Yeah,
Environmental
well,
Conservation to
we're just waiting
weigh
for
in,
them to
so
come up with some plan of action. And they've not read the report as of late last week.
It's
so-
really frustrating.
Yeah.
The
All the
brief,
taxes we pay, and we can't get them to do the.
the brief history to that is that in the due diligence period that was part of our contract to purchase the property, we uncovered some relatively minor contamination in one corner of the property by fuel oil. And I say relatively minor because our environmental consultant and the owner's environmental consultant both characterized it as rather minor, but that triggers the requirement to go through the process, which of course we all need to go through in any event to be sure we understand what the lay of the land is. But the final reports and the end of the due diligence period and the work plan has all been executed. It's sitting there in the hands of DEC, and now we're waiting for them actually to read it. So we look forward to getting an answer to that as soon as we can, because we want to take action on turning that into a productive parking location downtown. And it's also worth mentioning that in recent weeks, we've had indications from quite a number of developers in several different locations in the village that some projects may be starting to kick up again. We've had some positive report, as I may have mentioned at a previous meeting, in a meeting with Stop and Shop and their real estate broker, about the possibility that at some point in in the year 2011, we may actually see proposals coming there. And as you may have also heard, we're expecting to get a proposal for the former Baker property site, which is that office building campus that's on the hillside about halfway down Washington Avenue. So stay tuned on all of those subjects. With that, we can go to the resolutions. Steve.
You ain't even have to read it. I've never seen it with just 3 resolutions on it.
I know.
Steve,
Frightening.
you get number 1.
Give me $10 on Monday.
Happy New Year, Steve.
Now that should be, now actually, it's number 1, isn't it, the pre-check register? It's
Yes, it
listed
is,
2.
it is one. There
2 on
was
the
the
form.
local law that which I removed.
God, this is like
So
a
it
rehash
is
of
one.
Biden.
Excuse me.
Result, the pre-check register dated January
Yeah,
10th,
October local
2011,
laws.
covering check numbers 68290 through 68396, has been reviewed and hereby approved as listed below. General fund, $109,801.82. Water fund, $5,311.42. Capital fund, $5,322.71. Refuse fund, $6,618.21, for a total of $127,000, $127,054.16.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Mindy, 2,
Resolved.
that is going to be.
Right, that's 2. Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes and held, of the meeting held on Monday, December 27th, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? This was the meeting that took place on the 27th between the
I
holidays.
wasn't here.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved. Number 3.
Whereas the next village election for the Village of Pleasantville, New York will be held on Tuesday, March 15th, 2011. Now therefore be it resolved that the polling place for the March 15th, 2011 village election shall be located at the Ambulance Corps Building, Marble Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, and said hours of said election shall be from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second?
This will be an election for 2 trustee positions. Mindy and Brian, terms are ending, and also for the village justice. All in favor? Aye. Motion approved.
Are we using the same machines as we used in the last?
Judy, you want to give an update on the machines?
Yeah, well, I'm hopefully optimistic that we will be receiving the new machines. I have been battling with Westchester County now for months, myself and the 12 other villages that still, hold village elections. I'm attending a meeting tomorrow up in Fishkill with NICOM, and the commissioners of the Board of Election will be there, and they have sort of guaranteed that we should be getting. But they're not too familiar with village law, so I'm very encouraged that they're coming to this meeting tomorrow to listen to us and to listen to NICON, so they know what our needs are. So I'll have a definite for you.
Great.
Fingers crossed.
It's
Aren't the machines they're using now the ones that they had in the last election over at the
Yes.
school with a big piece of paper that you fill out?
Yes,
and
correct.
They scan it in
Right.
and all that. Boy, that seems to be, talk about how technology is supposed to move you away from cutting down trees, and the next thing you know, you've got this, I kind of feel like I'm back in a third world country with, the only thing that we need is a couple donkeys with, with side bags to put these things into, to take them to the Capitol to be counted. I mean, it just seems so silly,
Do they
It's
charge
just-
us for those machines?
really.
They're gonna dip your thumb in ink next
We
time.
could
They're
arrange
really
the
not
donkeys.
playing.
That's an issue that we're going to be discussing with them
I mean,
tomorrow.
it would seem to me if
But
there,
they have
if there's a
to-
cost associated with this,
There was-
that the last election that we had, which was paper and cardboard
Yeah,
box, seemed to
But
work
what
really well.
happened, when they rewrote the law, they left out that aspect that we can use paper ballots in our village election.
It's
The
not there?
State board, no. Well, you can use it as an emergency, but they have to be in the same format of what they've prepared for the county. It has, I can't use what I've used before. It's made it a little bit more restrictive for me, and we just have to work around until the state, if the state decides to change it. when they were redoing the law, they just completely left that whole aspect out for the paper
Is
ballots.
there any possibilities that we may end up with those old machines that,
No, we can't, it's,
No.
Oh, thank
those are
goodness.
So
not-
they gone, they jumped.
well, they're
Well,
not
after-
junk, but we're just not allowed to use them.
After what the county spent for those machines and the building to store them in?
But the new voting act, I think, requires certain
Yeah,
elements
now,
to be
yeah.
present,
Good.
so,
Right.
with
Well,
ADA and other things, so the
I
new
guess-
machines are the wave of the future with the donkeys.
Despite your dark feelings about that, there is something reassuring about the idea that if all else fails, there's a stack of paper and you can actually count them.
So I guess they're easier to count than chats.
That certainly works out well at a local level, maybe not so well levels above us, but I just wanted to report a couple of the items we talked about in work session. We met with some residents of Depew Street, which is the street down near the Sawmill Parkway that runs from Vanderbilt to Grant Street. And they proposed to us some streetscape improvements that would help improve the appearance of that neighborhood and also help buffer their homes from the adjacent parking and auto repair project business that is adjacent to it. So we'll look further into that, and thanks to Freddie Hettinger, as always, our local retired civil engineer who is helpful on every subject and was helpful on this subject as well. We are in an extremely resource-constrained environment, but the neighbors have put together a pretty nice plan and in fact have offered to assist in paying for it. So no certainty about when we'd be able to proceed, but that's under discussion. And then we also chatted about our parking lot permit fees, which have not been raised, we think, in about 8 years. And we will also be anticipating the arrival of the Lane Plumbing lot, and that is a lot that needs to have a parking permit rate assigned to it. So we've made no decisions about that, but we'll be talking about it over the next couple of weeks because the parking permit sales process begins in the spring, and we need to have everything squared away so that we're ready to go. So if anybody has any comment on that, as we, I don't think any of us are contemplating any major changes, but we may tinker with those numbers a little bit as we continue the discussion. So comments, as always, are welcome. We'll be adjourning our regular session and then have an executive session on matters of real estate and personnel. Is there a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
All right.
Thank you all. Again, as mentioned, we don't have a work session next week, Martin Luther King Day. Martin Luther King service at 7 p.m. at the Methodist Church. I encourage you to come. We're back here a week later, Monday, January 24, 7 p.m. work session, 8 p.m. televised session. Thank you, and Happy New Year.